The city's neon glow flickered across the rainy windshield, doing nothing to cut through the gloom in my heart. I was tailing my wife, Jessica, keeping a safe distance as her car sped down the slick asphalt, weaving through traffic like a trapped animal trying to escape the dark. Suddenly, a piercing squeal of tires tore through the night, followed by the violent, gut-wrenching crunch of metal on metal. The sound was so brutal it felt like it ripped the sky open. My heart seized. I slammed on my brakes, my own car fishtailing for a terrifying second before I brought it under control. I threw the door open and sprinted toward the wreck. The scene that met my eyes froze me in my tracks. A massive Ford Explorer had T-boned Jessica's sedan, caving in the driver's side completely. It was as if an invisible giant had crushed it in its fist. The front half of the SUV was embedded in the mangled frame of her car. Shards of safety glass littered the wet street, glittering like cruel diamonds in the strobing emergency lights of a passing ambulance. The rage and bitterness that had been burning in my gut for weeks were instantly extinguished by a tidal wave of pure, cold fear. There was no time to wonder how this happened. No time to curse the man she was with. My hands shaking, I fumbled for my phone, my thumb jabbing clumsily at the screen to dial 911. 911? What's your emergency? There's been a car accident, I gasped, my voice trembling uncontrollably as I spat out the intersection. After hanging up, I scrambled to the passenger side of the wreck. Through the shattered window, I saw a man slumped over the deployed airbag. His face was a mask of blood, his features unrecognizable. A wave of nausea rolled through my stomach. Steeling myself, I reached in to check for a pulse. His skin was cold, lifeless. He was gone. I stood there, stunned, my mind a complete blank. After a moment that felt like an eternity, I stumbled around to the driver's side to check on my wife. The sight made my knees buckle. Her body was twisted at an impossible angle, drenched in blood that streamed down the seat and pooled on the pavement below. A single glance was enough. There was no surviving that. My mind was a chaotic swirl of grief, anger, and a profound, hollow emptiness. Then I remembered. There was one more person. Her lover's sister, Chloe. I ran to the other side of the car and looked into the back seat. She was still there, slumped against the door. Her breathing was shallow, but she was alive, knocked unconscious from blood loss. I carefully pulled her out of the wreckage, her body limp in my arms. In the faint streetlight, I could see two severe wounds, one on her left shoulder and another on her thigh, blood pulsing from them like small, steady streams. Even unconscious, her face, now horribly disfigured, twitched in pain. Her brow was furrowed, her teeth clenched, and in that moment, seeing her, a wicked sense of satisfaction bloomed in my chest. This woman, this was the architect of my ruin. She was the one who had introduced Jessica to her brother, the one who had pushed them together. She couldn't be allowed to die, not this easily. She had to pay for what she'd done. I rushed back to my car and tore open the trunk, frantically searching for anything I could use to stop the bleeding. It was full of junk, jumper cables, a spare tire, an old gym bag, nothing. In a surge of desperate panic, I stripped off my own jacket and shirt, not caring who saw me, not caring about the absurdity of it. I used the clothes to clumsily bind her wounds. After a frantic minute, the bleeding finally slowed. I collapsed onto the curb, pulling Chloe into my lap, my mind utterly vacant. I don't know how long I sat there before the wail of sirens grew louder and two ambulances screeched to a halt nearby. I helped lift Chloe onto a stretcher, watching numbly as the paramedics swarmed around the scene. "Are you the one who called it in?" a uniformed police officer asked, his young partner standing beside him. I looked up, my eyes blank. "The deceased. Who are they to you?" he asked again when I didn't answer. "Friends of my wife," I lied. "The tow trucks are on their way. You should take these for now." The officer patted my shoulder gently, offering a few words of condolence before his partner handed me two purses and a man's wallet. I took them. Inside were cosmetics, phones, and IDs. I quickly popped the SIM cards out of both phones and slipped them into my own pocket. Urged on by a paramedic, I climbed into the ambulance with Chloe. She'd received a blood transfusion but remained in a deep coma. For days, I sat by her hospital bed, the silence broken only by the rhythmic beeping of the machines. And as I watched her, a plan began to form. A plan for my revenge. My name is Ethan Cole. I own a regional food company, Cole's Fine Meats, a glorified meatpacking plant I built from the ground up. My wife, Jessica, was a high school English teacher. Chloe Sanders was her colleague, and after discovering a shared love for vintage movies and indie bands, They became inseparable best friends. It was Chloe who planted the seeds of discontent. She told Jessica I was cheap, that I had no romance in my soul, that a life with me was a life of quiet desperation. So when the two of them went out, they started bringing her brother, Ryan, along. Chloe deliberately played matchmaker. And maybe she was right. I wasn't romantic. I was too busy keeping the business afloat, making sure the 40-odd people on my payroll could feed their families. I was so focused on that, I didn't even notice the profound changes in my own wife. Not until I took a client out for a steak dinner and saw Jessica and Ryan walking out of the hotel lobby, wrapped in each other's arms. That's when I knew I'd been made a fool of. I guess fate, or whatever you want to call it, stepped in. It sent that pair of adulterers straight to hell. My only regret was that it was too quick. They didn't suffer. It was the middle of a hot summer, and the morgue was backed up. Worried about decomposition, I made the arrangements myself. I had them both cremated. Since you loved each other so much in life, I thought, you can spend eternity together as ash. Call me a hopeless romantic. I'm such a good guy. I guess I deserve to be cheated on. Chloe's parents drove up from some forgotten town in West Virginia. I presented them with a check for a settlement that was more money than they'd ever see from a lifetime of working the land. Between my quiet persuasion and the at-fault driver's powerful local connections, the old couple accepted it without question. They went home with a box of what they believed were their son's ashes, and I never heard from them again. Jessica and Chloe had a similar build, and with their faces sharing a certain resemblance, at least to strangers, it was shockingly easy to pull off. With confirmation from me, the husband of one victim and the designated next of kin for the other, the official record was set in stone. The woman lying in the hospital bed was my wife, Jessica Cole. Looking at the unconscious woman, a strange thrill coursed through me. From this day forward, Chloe Sanders no longer existed. The woman in this bed was now my wife, Jessica. It felt as if some invisible hand was manipulating events, pushing them toward a conclusion my darkest self had secretly craved all along. I took an old photo of Jessica to the best plastic surgeon in Cleveland. I told him I wanted Chloe's face reconstructed to look just like my wife's before she woke up. Of course, I didn't tell him the truth. I spun a story about how I couldn't bear for her to wake up and see her own ruined face. How I wanted her to see the face of the woman I loved. Moved by my sincere devotion, he promised to do everything in his power. Fueled by my money and their own professional pride, the team of surgeons worked miracles. There were multiple skin grafts, fillers, implants, even a procedure to reshape her cheekbones. In her private recovery suite, as I looked at the woman with her head wrapped in thick gauze, I possessed her for the first time. I moved on top of her, breathing heavily, working myself into a frenzy until, unexpectedly, I felt a wave of exhaustion wash over me. A strange melancholy settled in, and holding her soft, pliant body, I fell into a deep sleep. I woke to bright sunlight streaming through the window. The woman from my bed was gone. A jolt of panic shot through me. I buzzed for the nurse, who told me that Chloe had woken up and the doctors had taken her for a round of tests. Seeing me asleep, they hadn't wanted to disturb me. My heart, which had leaped into my throat, slowly settled. But as the hours passed and she didn't return, a new anxiety began to build. I paced the room, then the hallway, but there was no sign of her. Just as true panic began to set in, I heard a flurry of footsteps outside. The door swung open, and there she was, Chloe. Her bandages were gone. The surgery was expensive, but the result was breathtaking. She was even more beautiful than the original Jessica. Her features more defined, more striking. "Ethan, you have to tell them," she pleaded, her eyes wild. "I'm Chloe. I'm not Jessica. Where's my brother? Where's Ryan? Oh God." She started to sob. "You're still recovering, Mrs. Cole. You need to rest," a doctor said gently, a nurse at his side. Chloe ignored them, her gaze fixed on me. I stood up and walked over, pulling her into a tight embrace. "Honey, I know you can't accept that your best friend is gone. It's okay. I'm here. From now on, I'm not going to be so busy with work. I'll be here with you." She shoved me away violently. "Get off me. I'm not your wife. You make me sick." I stepped in front of the doctors and nurses, blocking their path. "Don't say things you don't mean. I'll drop everything for you. I'll do whatever it takes to help you get through this. Okay?" A raw, animal wail escaped her lips, and she began beating my chest with her fists. I held her tighter. "Honey, we're in a hospital. Please, let's just go home. Okay?" As I spoke, I pressed my thumb firmly into a pressure point on the back of her neck. Her body went limp, and she fainted in my arms. Doctor, doctor, what's wrong with my wife? I cried out, lifting her onto the bed. The doctor rushed over. After a quick examination, he turned to me. She's just overwhelmed. Waking up to this new reality, the grief. It's too much. She fainted from the stress. It's not serious. I looked up, meeting his eyes. But why does she think she's her dead friend? The doctor explained, it's a known psychological phenomenon, a form of trauma-induced psychosis. Her subconscious mind feels responsible for her friend's death. Out of guilt and immense psychological pressure, she's created a second persona to escape that burden, to find some kind of mental peace. Can it be cured? I asked, my voice laced with fake desperation. The doctor clicked his tongue. For now, we can only manage it with medication. But the side effects can be significant. You need to be prepared for that. I nodded gravely. It doesn't matter. As long as she remembers who I am. I don't want her to forget her own husband. It's clear how much you care for her, the doctor said, a look of sympathy on his face. Don't worry. Her symptoms aren't too severe yet. With early intervention, a full recovery is possible. My hand slipped into my pocket, my fingers closing around my wallet. Then I'll leave her in your hands, doctor. Whatever it takes. Once her physical wounds had healed enough, I had her discharged, bringing Chloe home under Jessica's name. In preparation for her arrival, I'd had the basement renovated. It was now a padded, soundproof room with a heavy, reinforced door. Anytime Chloe insisted she wasn't Jessica, I'd force the medication down her throat, to the outside world, including my in-laws. I was the picture of a devoted, long-suffering husband. Jessica's parents came to visit as soon as they heard she was home. The first thing I did was show them the doctor's official diagnosis. Tears streamed down their faces. Oh, Ethan, this must be so hard for you. My mother-in-law sobbed, hugging me. We're leaving Jessica in your hands now. Of course, I said, patting her back. She's my wife. I led them to the basement. When I opened the door, we found Chloe huddled in a corner. The moment she saw Jessica's parents, she shot to her feet. Let me out of here. He's holding me prisoner. This is illegal. I'm going to call the police. I spoke in a soft, gentle voice. Jessica, honey, Mom and Dad are here to see you. Jessica's parents moved toward her, arms open for an embrace. Chloe scrambled away. You've all been fooled by this butcher, she screamed, pointing at them. I'm not Jessica. I'm Chloe Sanders. I was your daughter's best friend. Your daughter is dead. She died with my brother. I calmly opened the prescription bottle, tapped out a pill, and walked toward her. Honey, it's time for your medicine. She slapped the pill from my hand. Get away from me. I'm not sick. Why should I take pills? You're the ones who need them. You can't even recognize your own wife, your own daughter. I crouched down, picking the pill up off the floor. I sighed and turned to her parents. Mom, Dad, you see what I'm dealing with? What am I supposed to do? Jessica's mother covered her mouth. Sweetheart, you just listen to Ethan, okay? We'll come see you again soon. Her father had already slipped out of the room. They had another child, their son, Kevin. The only reason I'd been able to marry the beautiful Jessica in the first place was because her family couldn't afford the down payment on a house for Kevin's demanding fiancé. My money had solved that problem. At the front door, the old couple didn't have much more to say. In the past, every visit had been a request for money. A down payment for Kevin's condo, cash for his new car. Now they were on thin ice. If they pushed me, I could just return their crazy daughter, let them deal with her. I watched them walk away without a backward glance. It would be a long time before I saw them again. I went back down to the basement. The smile vanished from my face, replaced by a cold, hard mask. Chloe, surprised that you'd end up in my hands. Her eyes widened in dawning horror. So, I'm not sick. I really am Chloe. Her gaze shot to me. Ethan, what are you doing? Why did you make me look like Jessica? I let out a cold laugh. Why? What do you think? She looked down, her voice barely a whisper. I don't know. I grabbed her chin, forcing her to look at me. Don't play dumb. Jessica betrayed me. You think you had nothing to do with that? Understanding flooded her face, followed by terror. The car crash. Did you arrange it? My eyes hardened. You think I'd let them off that easy? No, that was a genuine accident. They got lucky. My gaze settled on her. Now you know why I made you look like Jessica. She scrambled back into the corner. Ethan, please, let me go. I'll never do it again. I swear. I won't tell anyone. I promise. I advanced on her, looming over her small frame. What good is your promise? You're Jessica Cole now. You have her face, you have her ID. The person known as Chloe Sanders has been legally declared dead. Her identity has been erased. This is your life now. Accept it. She shook her head, muttering to herself. No, there has to be something. Something to prove who I am. She held up her hands. My fingerprints? In your rage and grief, you destroyed them, scraped them right off. She looked up, her eyes wide with disbelief. How is that possible? It had to be you. Our eyes met. A cruel smile played on my lips. Of course it was me. You think of something, I'm already 10 steps ahead. Oh, and don't even think about a DNA test with your parents. Not unless you want to have no family left in this world. I knelt, grabbing her hands. And all of that assumes you could even get out of here to try. Don't forget, you're officially mentally ill. You have a doctor's diagnosis. No one will ever believe a word you say. She tried to pull her hands away, but my grip was iron. Ethan, please. What do you want from me? Will torturing me really make you feel better? I lunged at her brutally. How will I know if I don't try? After the storm of my assault was over, she lay limply on the floor. Can you let me go now? She whispered. I looked at her with a playful smirk. What do you think? Suddenly, she scrambled to her knees. I'm begging you, Ethan. Just let me go like I'm nothing. I'll do anything you want. Anything. I extended my foot. Anything? To my surprise, she lunged forward and grabbed my foot. It wasn't a fetish of mine, so I pulled it back, a flicker of disgust crossing my face. I grabbed her by the shoulders. All I ever wanted was a decent life. What did I do wrong? Why did you have to destroy my family? She could only apologize, bowing her head over and over. She had no other cards to play. I threw a pile of Jessica's clothes at her. From now on, you'll wear a different outfit every day. I don't want to see you in the same thing twice. She picked up a silk blouse, her hands trembling. Can I not wear these? I don't want to wear Jessica's clothes. I held up a loaf of bread and a carton of milk. You can choose to wear them or not, and I can choose whether you eat or not. Her eyes darted away. She turned her back and began to unbutton her shirt. Turn around. I commanded. Don't make me say it again. She turned, and I watched her change as if I were admiring a piece of art. When she was dressed, I handed her the food. She was starving. She tore open the packaging and wolfed it down, gulping the milk between huge bites of bread. Watching her eat, I felt a strange sense of déjà vu, as if she really were Jessica. If it hadn't been for Chloe, Jessica and I would have been happy. She used to do my laundry, cook my meals, rub my shoulders when I was tired, and stay up all night with me when I drank too much. It would be a lie to say I didn't love her. But after she cheated, I asked myself 1,000 times. Was it my fault? When I first met her, she was simple. The only jewelry she wore was the plain gold band from our wedding. She wore minimal makeup. Her natural beauty didn't need it. But after she met Chloe, she started coming home later and later. She went out more, spent more. Her clothes were never less than $1,000. Her makeup was all imported, and her jewelry had to match every outfit. If she'd earned the money herself, I might have looked the other way. But she started dipping into my business accounts. Yes, I was frugal, but that money was for new equipment for my employees' salaries. We had the biggest fight of our lives. For the first time, she didn't come home. She didn't go to her parents, either. She went to Chloe's. Chloe had fed her a script. Modern women should be independent. Be the hero of your own story. Don't rely on anyone. Be brave. Be yourself. Fine, be yourself. But why was I the one paying for it? Why was I footing the bill for your shopping sprees, your girls' nights, even for expenses for your best friend and your lover? What kind of pathetic joke was I? Chloe looked down on my blue-collar background, my unrefined manners. But that didn't stop her from enjoying the fruits of my labor while she preached her gospel of female independence. And if you're so independent, why did you come crying to me for money every time your parents needed to bail out your deadbeat brother? The thought sent a fresh surge of rage through me. I grabbed Chloe's head, forcing myself on her again. It wasn't until she was choking that I finally stopped. Sweet dreams, I said, leaving her on the floor. See you tomorrow. I wasn't worried about her escaping. She was Jessica Cole now. No one could prove otherwise, and no one would believe a crazy person. But I wasn't going to let her off easy. The security camera in the ceiling was smart. If she crossed the electronic boundary I'd set near the door, a piercing alarm would go off. The sound alone was enough to shatter a person's will. When I appeared with her breakfast the next morning, she was already dressed in a new outfit. She didn't rant or plead like she had in the first few days. She just ate everything I gave her in silence. Her eyes fixed on me. I checked the security logs. She hadn't gone near the boundary line. She'd given up on escaping. As a reward, I brought her lunch. A steak and sausages from my own company, along with a bottle of good Cabernet. She ate like a starved wolf, her manners non-existent, as if she expected me to snatch the food away at any second. When she was done, I took a clean napkin and wiped the grease from her mouth and hands. She stood there placidly, letting me do as I pleased. Her compliance was unsettling. I wondered what was going on inside her head. That evening, along with dinner, I brought her a small radio. I figured she could use it to pass the time. I didn't want her to actually go insane on me. That would spoil the fun. Before I went to bed, I checked the monitor one last time. She was asleep, or at least pretending to be. The radio emitted a soft static. Was this her new strategy? Did she think that if she stopped fighting, I'd get bored? That if I couldn't get my thrill of revenge from her suffering, I'd let her go? What a joke. My hatred wasn't that cheap, and my heart wasn't that forgiving. Still, looking at her on the screen, for a fleeting moment, I couldn't tell if I was looking at Jessica or Chloe. It was almost as if I was the one with the split personality. But what did it matter? I wasn't going to let either of them off the hook. She remained docile for a month. My in-laws came by once. To be safe, I didn't let them in the basement. I just showed them the live feed from the camera, proving she was alive and that I wasn't mistreating her. They showered me with praise about how well I was taking care of her and how much better she looked. But that wasn't the real reason for their visit. It was about their son, Kevin. Kevin, with delusions of grandeur, had decided to start his own business. He'd secretly mortgaged the family home to fund it. He had zero business sense, and the result was predictable. He lost everything. With the bank about to foreclose, they pinned their last hopes on me. I asked them how much they needed. They exchanged a look, furtively flashing numbers with their hands under the table. One said 30,000, the other 35. I put on a pained expression. Business has been tough lately, you know that? I've only got about 50 grand in the accounts right now. I've got payroll, bills, and Jessica's medical expenses. It's a real struggle. I spread my hands helplessly. I was actually thinking of asking you for a loan, but it looks like that's out of the question. My mother-in-law piped up. Can't you just pay the workers a few days late? I shook my head vehemently. No way. They're my only source of income right now. If I miss payroll, they could walk out, and then I'd really be screwed. My father-in-law lit a cigarette. Well, maybe you could pause Jessica's treatments for a while? She looks like she's doing better. Just pay off the debt, and you can start her therapy again later. I said nothing, just looked at my mother-in-law. She sighed. I suppose that's the only way. I pulled out a piece of paper and a pen. Let's just write this down so we have a record. If Jessica ever asks, I can show her that I wanted to get her help, but we didn't have the money, just so she doesn't think I'm lying to her. After a moment's hesitation, they both signed and pressed their thumbprints on the paper. I gave them $15,000 and told them they'd have to figure out the rest. I knew exactly what Kevin's business was. A high-stakes poker game. Everyone in town knew what a degenerate he was, but I didn't call them on it. He was a bottomless pit. You could give him a mountain of gold, and he'd find a way to lose it all. After they left, I went down to the basement. I checked the monitor first. She wasn't hiding behind the door. Jessica's parents were here today. I said, do you know why? Chloe shook her head, her face a blank mask. I don't know. A smile played on my lips. Oh, I think you do. It's the same with your parents. When I gave them that box of ashes, they didn't even bother to open it. Instead, they couldn't thank me enough. The shock on her face was visible. What are you saying? That's impossible. I placed her dinner in front of her. Finally, a different reaction. For the first time, she didn't touch the food. She just stared at me. You're lying to me. I handed her the signed agreement from her parents and the one Jessica's had just signed. Do I need to? Her hands trembled as she took the papers. She still couldn't believe what she was seeing. With a sudden cry, she threw the papers on the floor and grabbed the front of my shirt. You're lying. These are forgeries. You're just trying to make me give up hope. I shoved her away. Give up hope? Weren't you the one who said I was just a simple, honest guy who didn't play games? Do you really think I'm capable of faking all this? Or do you think there's anything you can do to make anyone believe you now? Don't flatter yourself. Let's make a bet. Her face was pale. Bet on what? I'll prove these documents are real. And in return, you'll willingly give me a child. She waved her hand frantically. You don't have to prove anything. I'll have your baby. Just promise you'll give me my freedom afterward. Please. I shrugged. Where's the fun in that? She pointed at herself, her voice breaking. Isn't this about revenge? I have Jessica's face. You can hit me, you can scream at me, I can take it. Why are you doing this to me? I cupped her face in my hands. Do you have any idea how much this face cost me? Do you want to see what you looked like before? Hit you? I wouldn't dare. I kissed her forehead. So, are we making that bet? The light went out of her eyes. Whatever, she whispered. Whatever. Fine by me. She endured my advances silently, no longer cooperating but not resisting either, like it was just a routine task. A few weeks later, she showed me a positive pregnancy test. I set her food down. Good. From today on, I won't touch you again, and I'll get you everything you need. She grabbed my arm. Pregnant women need sunlight for calcium. Can you let me see the sun? I won't run, I promise. I have nowhere to go. And besides, I'm carrying your child. She sounded so sincere. I patted her hand. I never restricted your freedom. The door is right there. You just never tried to open it. I looked her straight in the eye. What are you really worried about? What are you afraid of? She looked down, shook her head slightly and said nothing. As I turned to leave, she remained frozen in place. An hour later, the monitor pinged. She was at the door. I had disabled the alarm the moment I knew she was pregnant. Afraid the shock might cause a miscarriage, she touched the door, muttering something too low for the microphone to pick up. But then, she backed away. She never even touched the handle. Didn't she even have the courage to try? I was in my office signing paperwork when the front desk buzzed. Someone was here to see me. I told the receptionist to show him to the conference room and went back to my work. When I finished, I walked in to find him. He looked like a college kid who'd never had a real job, with a kind of naive stupidity in his eyes. You wanted to see me? He wrung his hands nervously. Yeah, so, here's the thing. I was Chloe Sanders' boyfriend. I went to her funeral. Get to the point. He gave an awkward laugh. I bought her old phone from her parents. It had been factory reset and most of her stuff was overwritten, but I managed to recover some data and I found out some things. My brow furrowed. What things? He pulled out a USB drive and waggled it in his hand. Their deaths might have something to do with you. The naive look was gone now, replaced by pure, unadulterated greed. I raised an eyebrow. Then why didn't you go to the police? They're already dead. What good would that do? He leaned in close, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. Give me $100,000, and I'll take this secret to my grave. I pushed him away. Go to the police. I welcome it, but threaten me? You don't have the qualifications. Or the guts. He was stunned. Aren't you worried this could ruin you? I had security escort him out without another word. The car crash was an accident. If there was any hidden story, it had nothing to do with me. The next day, Chloe's ex-boyfriend started a TikTok channel. The video titles were explosive. My wife was cheated on, her innocent best friend murdered. Wealthy CEO hires hitman, threatens to kill my whole family. An ordinary citizen's plea for justice. Local police are his biggest protectors. The internet predictably went insane. The story went viral. My identity was leaked, and my company's products were immediately boycotted nationwide. People called us a toxic factory. The flood of returns was overwhelming. I told my warehouse manager to accept everything and my accountant to issue full refunds. But I didn't stop production. In fact, I added 2 new production lines and ran them at full capacity. I hired 3 beautiful women to run a 24/7 live stream, just introducing our products and ignoring the torrent of hate in the comments. The stream had tens of thousands of viewers, but almost no one placed an order, and those who did immediately requested a refund. Still, I kept producing, flooding social media with new ads. I was the center of the internet's attention, and everyone at my company thought I had lost my mind. I called a meeting. Stay calm. I told them, this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to get rich. They didn't believe me. They thought the company was about to go under. I slammed my hand on the table. Anyone who wants to quit can submit their resignation right now. I won't stop you, but don't even think about coming back. For people quit. It didn't hurt the company. As for the factory workers, as long as they got paid, they didn't care. I saved every video Chloe's ex posted. I showed them to her with a sneer. Look at this loser you picked. Chloe looked up at me. But isn't what he's saying true? I shook my head, exasperated. No wonder you two were a couple. A perfect match. A pair of idiots. I showed her the signed settlement agreement and a secret recording I'd made of her ex's blackmail attempt. This is your boyfriend's true face. Everyone is just trying to use you to make a quick buck. Believe me, if I had given him that money, he would have assumed the evidence on your phone was real, and he would have spent the rest of his life bleeding me dry. She was shocked again, but even then, she tried to defend him. Please, Ethan, just let him go. I couldn't believe it. She was a hopeless romantic. Why should I? She lowered her head. If you let him go, I'll accept it. I'll only have one identity for the rest of my life. Your wife, Jessica Cole. In body and in mind. The name Chloe Sanders will never pass my lips again. Her offer held zero appeal to me, but I asked anyway, is he really worth it? Her delusion was incurable. He's not a bad person. He must be in some kind of trouble. That's the only reason he'd do this. I might have been willing to let him go, but the law wasn't. He was indicted for defamation and slander. At first, there was a public outcry. People thought he was being targeted, especially after he was mysteriously beaten up and had his leg broken while the videos were at their peak popularity. It only confirmed their belief that this was a cover-up, that I was a powerful figure who had the whole city in my pocket. The controversy attracted national attention. The ex-boyfriend's account was banned for spreading misinformation, and all his videos were scrubbed from the internet. In a televised interview, he confessed everything. He had a new fiancée, and her parents were demanding a $30,000 engagement ring and a down payment on a house. Desperate, he decided to see if he could squeeze something out of his dead ex-girlfriend's situation. He thought he'd hit the jackpot, so he tried blackmail. When that failed, he resorted to his smear campaign. The public was stunned. The district attorney's office held a press conference to personally clear my name. It turned out I wasn't a black-hearted capitalist. I employed numerous people with disabilities at my factory, giving them stable jobs when no one else would. I was a compassionate model entrepreneur who shouldn't be subjected to such baseless slander. Reporters swarmed my factory. They toured the state-of-the-art automated equipment and the spotless, sterile production rooms, all of which strictly adhered to federal standards. They interviewed my employees who, whether prompted or not, gave glowing reviews. The story about me being willing to sell my own house to make payroll, as ridiculous as it sounded, was eaten up by a sympathetic public. My reputation underwent a miraculous transformation. We were flooded with apology purchases and conscience-clearing consumption. The production lines were running so hot they were practically smoking. The workers were doing double shifts. I wasn't stingy. I handed out cash bonuses every single day. The brand was established. My name was famous. Trucks lined up for blocks to pick up shipments from the factory. The price per unit was rising before the product even left the gates. I could make one phone call and have truckloads of fresh meat delivered, a luxury I'd never had before. Our live stream sold out completely. The shipping department was buried under mountains of packing tape. But I didn't let the hosts end the stream. They played soft music, chatted with the audience, and expressed endless gratitude. Of course, I didn't take a cent of the digital gifts and tips people sent. I gave it all to the three hosts. They worked even harder, showing off their talents, singing and dancing for the camera. My in-laws, undoubtedly prompted by Kevin, started their own TikTok live. They claimed to be my parents, not my in-laws. They went on and on about how wonderful I was to Jessica, how I stood by her even after her mental breakdown, and how I was getting her the best care. Of course, plenty of people in the comments pointed out the truth, but the donations poured in. Praise for me, and plenty of hate for Jessica, saying her mental illness was karma. I didn't tell Chloe about any of this. She was 7 months pregnant, and I didn't want anything to upset her or the baby. I had created a medical file for her under Jessica's name, and took her to all her prenatal appointments. She was perfectly compliant, never making a fuss. The good nutrition had made her swell up. Her feet were so bloated she could only wear slippers. She was also incredibly lazy, which made me think she was having a girl. They say cravings for sour and spicy mean you're having a boy or a girl. But her obsession with a bizarre mix of spicy tacos and dill pickles just confused me. Maybe a tomboy. As long as it wasn't a wimp, I didn't care. She had accepted her new identity, at least on the surface. She called me honey. She picked out my clothes. When people called her Jessica, she answered immediately. Things were going so well that sometimes, when I was busy, I would almost forget a person named Chloe Sanders ever existed. She gave me a son. I immediately checked them into the best luxury postpartum wellness retreat in the state. After she recovered, She took on the role of the perfect mother and wife. She cared for our son personally, and she would even cook meals and bring them to my office. I wasn't afraid she'd poison me. I had given her a life of luxury she could never have otherwise. She was living as Jessica Cole, and for all intents and purposes, that's who she was. Until she saw a news report about the death of her parents. Before she even had time to grieve, the online comment sections were filled with vicious attacks and cruel speculation. She vanished from the house. And then she appeared on a live stream. Chloe's eyes were red and swollen. She'd clearly been crying for hours. Hello, everyone. My name is not Jessica Cole. My real name is Chloe Sanders. I've been struggling for a long time about whether to reveal the truth, but I can't take it anymore. You're all dragging my parents' names through the mud. It was bad enough that I couldn't be there for their funeral, but now to have them slandered like this. I have no one left. She broke down sobbing. The viewer count on her stream skyrocketed. I hired a PR firm that specialized in online reputation management. They flooded her chat with just 2 phrases, over and over, "She's having an episode," and "new script." She tearfully recounted how I had abused her, imprisoned her, and forced her to do things against her will. But a single click on her social media profile showed a different story. Videos of her doting on her son, pictures from luxury resorts, designer bags, 5-star hotels. The comments on those posts were a sea of people writing, "I volunteer for this kind of abuse," and "Please, someone imprison me like this." Soon, old colleagues of Jessica and Chloe came out of the woodwork, spilling stories about them. One was an enabler to her deadbeat brother, the other a vain, materialistic social climber. When Chloe filed a police report, they couldn't take any action. A person with a documented history of severe mental illness has impaired cognitive and expressive abilities. Her testimony, without any supporting evidence, had no credibility. Instead, they contacted her legal guardian, me. A kindly officer even tried to reason with her. "Ma'am, you should go home with your husband. He's a good man. He provides for you. You have a beautiful child together. At this point, does it really matter if you're Jessica or Chloe?" His words silenced her. He was right. Who was she anymore? What did she have to complain about? In the car on the way home, she sat in the passenger seat, staring straight ahead, her face a blank mask. I had no idea what she was thinking. When we pulled into the garage, she finally broke. The tears came, silent at first, then racking sobs. "I'm sorry, honey," she choked out. "I'm so sorry." I turned to her and gave her a mysterious, knowing smile. She flinched. I dragged her down to the long-forgotten basement. She clung to my wrist, her voice desperate. "Honey, I know I was wrong. I really do. The baby can't be without his mother." I stripped her of her jewelry, her clothes, everything. Then I strapped her to the chair. "It's been a while since you've been down here. I've added a few little surprises." I opened a drawer and pulled out a pair of electric clippers. She thrashed, twisting her body wildly. "Honey, I'll never do it again, I swear. Please, forgive me." I caressed her exquisitely maintained face. "Don't move. I'd hate to hurt you." As she watched her hair fall to the floor, her tears flowed freely. "I won't do it again. I'll never do it again." When I was done, her entire body was bare and smooth. "Is there any point in saying that now?" I asked coolly. "I gave you a chance, and you threw it away." I left our son with the nanny and lay alone in our bed. A light rain began to fall outside, tapping against the window and stirring old memories. I lay there, thinking of new ways to vent my anger. Chloe's life was completely in my hands now. No matter what she said or did, no one would ever believe her. I heard a noise from downstairs. I reached for the bedside lamp, but it wouldn't turn on. The power was out. My first thought wasn't that Chloe might escape, but that she might suffocate in the sealed basement without the ventilation. The moment I opened my bedroom door, something heavy crashed down on my head. Stars exploded behind my eyes. A second blow sent me into blackness. When I came to, I was tied to a chair with heavy-duty zip ties. I was bound so tightly only my head could move. Duct tape was sealed over my mouth. On the floor nearby, the nanny lay in a pool of blood, either dead or unconscious. My first thought was of my son. I strained against the bonds. We were in the living room. The streetlights outside cast long shadows across the floor. A figure limped out from the darkness. "Don't struggle," a cold voice said, laced with venom. "Those are slip knots. The more you fight, the tighter they get." It was Chloe's ex-boyfriend, Leo, the one I'd sent to prison. He shouldn't be out yet. He must have escaped. He was holding one of my new, imported kitchen knives. He pointed the tip at my heart. You know something? You ruined my life. And you ruined the woman I loved. I'm going to cut you into 1,000 pieces before this night is over. Can you let me handle him? A second voice. Chloe emerged from the shadows on the other side of the room. She was wrapped in a thick robe, a winter hat pulled down over her shaved head. Leo handed her the knife. He clapped his hands together, a look of manic glee on his face. Perfect. They say a crazy person can't be convicted of murder. Did you ever think the bullet you fired would come back and hit you right between the eyes? Chloe ripped the duct tape from my mouth. Ethan Cole, do you have any last words? I sighed, resigned. Just don't hurt our son. Do whatever you want with me. Leo patted her shoulder. Ask him for his bank passwords, the security codes, where he keeps anything valuable. We'll need it to get away. Chloe turned to him. Run? Why would I run? I'm Jessica Cole. This is my house. Leo's eyes widened in realization. Right. You're Jessica Cole. Of course. And if you can become Jessica Cole, then I can become Ethan Cole. What a brilliant idea. He rubbed his hands together excitedly. This is great. All of this will be mine. Chloe turned back to him. You just reminded me of something. What's that? The knife flashed. A crazy person can't be convicted of murder. It happened so fast. Leo clutched at his throat. A look of utter shock on his face as blood poured between his fingers. He collapsed without another sound. Chloe had moved with a brutal, decisive efficiency. There was no hesitation in her eyes, only pure, murderous intent. She looked like a professional killer. Then she turned to me. Ethan, do you regret not killing me when you had the chance? I was sure I was going to die. I closed my eyes. What's the point of asking that now? She didn't answer. Instead, she asked another question. If you could go back, would you still have saved me? I don't know, I said honestly. I think I would have. She leaned in and kissed me. A long, deep kiss. Ethan Cole, she whispered against my lips. I love you. I may not have read a lot of books, but I knew what this was. Stockholm Syndrome. I opened my eyes. If you love me, then untie me. She pulled back, a strange smile on her face. No, not yet. Seeing the confusion in my eyes, she caressed my cheek. You think I fell in love with you because you kept me prisoner. You're wrong. I fell in love with you the first day I met you. I was so jealous of Jessica. Why did she get to be with you? It wasn't fair. I was determined to take you from her. But you were so good to her. You even tolerated that deadbeat brother of hers. I knew the only thing you couldn't tolerate was betrayal. You're saying you liked me back then? But all you ever showed me was contempt. It's true, she said softly. I have no reason to lie to you now. Then why didn't you just tell me? Why did you let me lock you up? She picked up my phone and dialed 911. First, you were in a rage. You wouldn't have believed me. Second, you made me into Jessica. I wasn't sure how much of her was still left in your heart. She handed me the phone. It's time to end this. The police arrived quickly. Leo was an escaped convict who had committed breaking and entering, assault, and now murder. Whether Chloe, or rather Jessica, was legally insane or not, she could claim self-defense. The incident made me a trending topic again. All the old news stories were dredged up, and my company's products were once again in higher demand than ever. Jessica, now pregnant again, sat on the couch, slapping her thigh. My brother still owes us so much money. You'd better make sure you get it all back, with interest. I pushed her hand away. Next time, slap your own leg. For a pregnant woman, you hit way too hard. She, who I had once dominated so completely, now radiated an aura of raw power. I was honestly afraid she could cave in my skull with her bare hands. Under her terrifying pressure, her brother, Kevin, finally quit gambling. The main side effect was that he could now only eat with his left hand and had to stick to soups and soft foods. The basement was renovated one more time, but this time, Jessica was the one in charge of the design. She had all the lights replaced with bulbs that cast the room in a lurid mix of magenta and electric blue. Her tastes, it turned out, were even more extreme than mine.